And we're rolling.
Hi. So, thank you, ladies, for joining this discussion. We're calling this, Avon, the Avon lady in the office bitch, right? And well, firstly, I reached out to Amber because she actually has a book that just launched today. Woohoo! Well, the ebook at least, right? Or is it the hard copy?
The hard copies are out today.
Okay. And in it, she talks about her experiences. I'll let her talk about her book in detail, but I believe there was at least a chapter dedicated to her experience with domestic abuse and some things that had occurred and her experiences with that. And when she had talked about that on her Facebook page, so I reached out to her because that is something that I truly am empathetic about, and with Avon and our Avon Foundation, we wholeheartedly support domestic uh, violence awareness month in the month of October, and in efforts to do that. So I thought it would be a good idea to just invite her to kind of talk about her book, maybe even read some of it, or just discuss it, her experiences, and also my friend Leslie, who is also joining us, thought that maybe she, again, I saw that she had posted her own personal testimony, and I thought that maybe she could add to this discussion. And we are opening it up, so, Alexis, she expressed interest in hearing more about this topic. And so here we are. Me, myself, like, I don't personally have an experience. I've had some, questionable interactions with men in this top with this topic, but not specifically like a relationship. And so maybe in talking with you ladies, maybe there are some things that you can help us to understand, maybe some red flags. I can certainly talk about the red flag that I experienced, that I was like, okay, well, this is not, this doesn't seem quite right. And I'm glad that I'm not in that situation anymore, but what if I had stayed in that situation? So anyway, so some red flags and some warning signs, and maybe your own personal stories, if you'd like to share there. So with that, I will turn it over to Amber.
Okay, well, thank you, Sheray. Actually, I was like really excited when you came to me about this, when you came up with the idea of us kind of collaborating, because I had no idea that Avon even had like a foundation or any sort of initiative toward domestic violence awareness. So for me personally, like you mentioned in my book, there is one chapter about my experience with domestic violence. Luckily, I haven't had a lot, like I haven't been like in relationship after relationship, but some of the warning signs that I know now, I didn't know until after it was over years later, and I'm learning about it. So just to name a couple that I experienced was being isolated from my family and friends, and not really in a very direct way by saying like, oh, you can't hang out with them or you can't talk to them, even though he had said that to, I think, one or two of my friends. But just the overall feeling of, fear and apprehension to have conversations with family and friends, because I didn't feel like being questioned, or I didn't feel like being, judged for the things that I would talk about. I didn't feel like having him in my business about what conversations I was having that had nothing to do with him. So because I didn't want to go through that, I would just like not talk to anybody. So that was one kind of small warning sign. And another was just, being called a liar on a regular basis, being accused of things that I never did, never even thought of. But ultimately, it was more of a like more so emotional and mental that I dealt with. I don't know if Leslie or Alexis can attest to any of those. Or Leslie, do you have anything you want to share? Or
Yeah, sure. Well, my story was about 15 years ago, and I posted it on Facebook because I saw someone who had posted something. Another member of my team, my Avon team, had posted something about being a domestic violence survivor, and she just posted the picture. But I decided to add my testimony, and I had thought about it because I think I saw it on a Monday, and then like all week I'm like, I don't even know if I'm gonna do this because I had written it, and then I was like, I don't know. And then Friday, I was like, God, I don't want to do this. And I felt like God was saying, just post it for whatever reason. And I didn't know I was going to get the response that I did. A lot of people responded and said, I was a domestic violence survivor too. I'm glad I got out, or my sister came and got me with the clothes on my back, or thank you for being transparent because somebody needed to hear that. So even if they didn't experience it, they might have known somebody who did. And they were just thanking me for being transparent. But going back to my story, it was about 15 years ago. I just moved to Charlotte, and in my post, I was saying that I was just learning about men and love and relationships because I was just out of college. And I met this guy not too long after I moved to Charlotte. And I was probably about 24 or so. So this was probably my first major relationship that I would consider as an adult. And when I met him, I thought he was like right around my age because he kind of looked younger. I thought it was maybe like 29, 30. He ended up being like 39, 40, which isn't a big deal, but at the same time, it is when you're in that age bracket. But, the thing that got me with him was, he took me to different places and showed me different things and, wine me and dine me and anything you want. So I thought I was in this real adult relationship. And I would say some of the red flags at the beginning of our relationship, like one time we went out to this restaurant and like, it was busy. It was a little Thai restaurant in the country. And I was running out of water. And then I'd asked the server and she had gone somewhere. And then I was like, man, I'm really thirsty. And like the whole situation just elevated out of control where he basically was like starting to yell in the restaurant and, she's thirsty and you guys are trying to choke her. It just went out of control. And it was like the whole restaurant was looking at us.
Yeah.
It got to a point where, we were 2 seconds away from flipping the table. So, the lady was like, just get out, just leave. And, I think he paid the bill or whatever. And we walked out. And I just remember thinking, okay. So that was a part of his personality that I didn't factor in, the intense rage that he would get. So at my, I guess, youngness, naivete, I was thinking, oh, well, he's just protecting me. After I kind of rationalized it, I was like, oh, he's just protecting me, and just kind of making excuses. So as time went on, and as I learned that he was 14 years older than me, it started turning into like a father-daughter relationship almost, because then he was like, oh, you're young and you don't know anything and blah, blah, blah. At first it was, I can teach you stuff. And then after a while it was like, you don't know anything. So I experienced some physical parts of it, but our relationship was probably more mental and emotional and verbal and, just little things that he would say that you were like, okay, well, just kind of let it fly over. Like I remember us walking through my neighborhood, just going on a nice little romantic walk or whatever. There was another guy in our neighborhood that I knew where he just said hello. And my boyfriend at the time, his arms were around me with it, so clearly he was my boyfriend. So the guy was just saying, hello, how y'all doing? And I was like, oh, hey, Roger or whatever, how you doing? And then we kept walking. And then when we got back to my house, my boyfriend was like, why were you talking to him? He wasn't talking to you. I was like, well, he was talking to both of us. And he was like, no, he wasn't. It just blew up into this whole big, conversation, like an argument over nothing. And then the argument started coming more and more and more. And the alienation part from my friends and family was coming more and more. And I didn't know that he was kind of manipulating my mind to be like, I'm basically all you need. You don't need anybody else. You don't have to talk to your mom every day. You don't need your friend. Or like you were saying, starting to make up stuff about me, like what's going on with you and your friend? Like y'all got something going on. Like why are you talking to her? And I had one really good friend that we would go and talk and hang out, and she would call me. And to this day, I don't know what happened, but I think that I probably left my phone somewhere. He picked it up, started talking to her, telling her whatever, not to call me or whatever. And like, she never talked to me ever again. Like, never returned my phone calls. You know, I left messages, and I finally saw her like a few years ago, and I was like, hey, what happened to you? And she never said what happened. So, you know, I lost a big friendship over it. And I just slowly moved away from my friends and family because he started putting in my mind basically that I was the only one, you know, I needed. And, you know, and so I became really codependent upon him for that reason. And so I would definitely say a red flag would be intense rage and jealousy, accusing people of things, you know, that aren't necessarily true, alienation from friends and family, because that way they can manipulate you to do what they want you to do. And they kind of keep you held mentally or whatnot. So, and that's kind of a hard thing to break if you're not really a strong person.
Exactly. If I could just chime in, it's basically being brainwashed.
Yeah. Basically.
Over time, because, you know, you go in, everything's so great and beautiful. Slowly but surely, a couple years in, you don't realize now you're isolated and it's just you and this person, and your mind has been warped to the point where, like, you don't think you can even get out. So
yeah. Go ahead.
I was just saying that's kind of the part that people don't realize, like the part where people say, oh, well, just leave.
Yeah.
Right.
When your
mind it's so simple. Like,
hey.
Exactly. When your mind has been changed and warped so much, it's like, just leave is not an option, because when you think about it, it's like, okay, finances, and then it's been a whole Stockholm syndrome comes in where it's like, I want to make sure he's safe, and all of those thoughts that come behind it.
Yeah. And it's, you know, I've been one of those girls who have heard other girls' conversations like, girl, just don't do that, or I would never do that, or, you know, you wouldn't catch me in that situation. And you just never know until you're in that situation, you know, what you would do and what would happen, and how you would really respond. So I never thought I really would be that girl, you know, until I was in it. And then, you know, now that I'm out of it, I'm like, yeah, I was that girl, you know. And so there came a point where even my friend Brandon, like, we were really close since college. And, you know, I just remember having a conversation with him saying, oh, you know, I don't think we should go out anymore or talk anymore, because we would go to like lunch from time to time and stuff. And I was like, I don't think we should talk anymore. And I just remember I could just hear over the phone, he was just like, what's going on with you? Like, so you can't talk to me anymore? Like, what's up with that? And I was like, no, you know, I got a man now, so, you know, I need to respect him and you know, do what he says and stuff. And I just remember him like, okay.
I had a similar thing happen like that, where one of my friends, like, I had made like lots of male friends because guys for some reason were easier for me to hang out with. But one of my friends called me and I was like, oh, hey, how's it going? And you can hear that it was a guy's voice on the phone, and he's, who is that? And my friend is like, it's like that. And I'm like, well, you know, let me just call you back. I tried to like play it off, but and then I couldn't even call him back.
Yeah.
So it's unfortunate, but that's how it goes. But I'd love to figure out some solutions, like how can, like, I know some solutions from having worked in the domestic violence shelter locally here in Des Moines.
Yeah.
Like when I left Baltimore, which is where I'm from and where he was, I came here, I was pregnant with my twins. I left because I felt like I didn't want my children to come into this they were the ones that saved me. If it weren't for that, then I would have probably still been out there.
Yeah.
But, you know, I came here and like I said, I didn't learn that it was even domestic abuse relationship until years later. And I started working at the shelter and learning about the power and control wheel and learning about safety planning and how to get out. So I'm sorry, I don't mean to take over the whole conversation here, but what was it that got you out, Leslie?
Well, honestly, you know, I found out that he was cheating on me on top of all of this or whatnot. So it was almost like the straw that broke the camel's back, because I was like, I've done all this stuff to make you happy. I've basically let go of everybody, and then you turn around and you cheat on me. So it was kind of like an eye opener. And even then it was hard to leave, because I'm like, you know, I could be better than her and this and all of that. And let me go talk to her, you know, just stupid young stuff. But
so what steps did you take to get out? Did you have somebody help you?
let's see, what did I do? I think he ended up moving, and then he ended up moving with the girl. But he still wanted me at the same time. So it's kind of like, have your cake and eat it too. And I'm like, nah, dog, like, I'm good. And he's like, the infamous, if I can't have you, nobody will. So he still wanted me, and he didn't want anybody with me, but he wanted her too, or anybody really. And so I ended up moving because he was just like, it was beginning to be too much where, he would be calling my job and, where is she? And can I talk to her? And, I worked at a restaurant at that time, part-time. And he would basically sit outside. I kind of figured all this after the fact, but I knew he would be calling, seeing that I was in there, but people would tell because I started to speak a little bit more. And people would tell him, oh, no, she's busy right now or whatnot. But he probably could look through the blinds and see that I was right there. So, just little stuff like that. And I eventually ended up having to move apartments, change my phone number, change my job, change my car, like everything, because it was just getting to be too much. And he was also into drugs as well. So he was starting to hide drugs in my car, starting to hide drugs in my house.
Oh my God.
Wow.
I had to end up changing all of that because I remember driving down the street one time and this guy was just like, yo, 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 yo. So he probably thought that my boyfriend was him or whatnot. And I was like, no, I cannot do this. Like, so it's almost like being in the witness protection program, even though you're in the same area. But
wow, that's intense. Like you really had to change your whole life just from that.
Yeah, basically change my identity inside and out. And just try to move on. I just remember my mom, kind of let my mom in on what was going on. And I remember her calling me and saying, why don't you just come home for like at least 6 months or something like that. And then I thought about it, but I was like, just something rose up in me and I was like, no, I'm going to fight because I've already changed enough. I'm not going to let him have this too. It was almost like the Tina Turner, you can have everything but my name, So
yeah.
I was like, I'm going to fight this guy. Like, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to let him force me to move out of now what I call my home. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to stay. I know you don't like it, Mom, but I'm going to make it out of this. I promise you. And finally I did. So, and I have to account it to a strong foundation in God, because I did lose my way, when I was with him, just doing things I wasn't supposed to be doing, being around things I wasn't supposed to. And definitely the prayers of other people. Cause I know that there were certain people who probably knew and could tell what was going on because my personality changed. And there were some women who spoke into my life kind of not necessarily nonchalantly but I guess the proper word would be indirectly. Like they would just say stuff like, hey, you don't have to chime in on that. You don't have to put up with that, or, they wouldn't say specifically, but, little walks here and there, normally they wouldn't go a certain way, but they'd be like, oh, walk with me to this next office. And then they would just put a little nugget in my ear and then kind of walk off. And I'd be like, okay, that kind of stuff, or guys who would say, that's a joker. Like, you don't need to be messing with that. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not who you need to be with,
Right.
And just certain things like that. And even my pastor, like there were certain sermons I can remember where it felt like he was talking directly to me, on how relationships should work and how men should treat women and vice versa and stuff. So it was just little things here and there that were just kind of coming together. It's like the puzzle pieces were finally just coming together. And just really get my self-esteem up and realizing where it came from, because I know it came from my relationship with my father, which a lot of times that's what happens when you don't have a really strong relationship with your dad. You normally seek out who your dad is anyway. Mm-hmm. And so I remember reading this book a long time ago with this lady who was very promiscuous. And finally she said that she realized it because she was always searching for somebody who was emotionally unavailable, because that's the relationship she had with her dad. And that always clicked with me because my dad was kind of sort of there, but he was very emotionally unavailable, So once I started learning why I did what I did and why I attracted the men that I attracted, then I could start to turn things around. So now I can recognize the signs. So a few months ago, I started dating this guy who was, again, 14 years older than me. But then a couple of red flags started happening. I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. So at least I know the red flags now, and I'm able to say quickly, I don't think this is going to work, let me move on. So, but it definitely takes a strong group around you, a strong people who can just speak into your life and really just speak up, because sometimes we suffer in silence. But when you see something or you see a sign in somebody, just say something. You don't have to give them the whole conversation, but you can just give them a sentence,
Yeah.
Right. I know for me, the way that I got out, like I mentioned, I was pregnant. And my mother was living here in Des Moines while I was in Baltimore. I had lost my job. So I had been in communications with her about how everything was going. She saved me. Like, she put in for the plane ticket and told me to come out, and I did. And she was actually working at the shelter that I ended up working at later. She was working there, so that's how she kind of knew what to do and how to get me out. But in some cases, there people are in this situation that don't have any support at all. So from what I learned, the best way to get out is to make a plan and do it slowly. So you have to start hiding a bag with your passport or with your birth certificate, all the things that are vital, your vital information, hiding them somewhere where when he or she, because a woman can be abusive too, but when your partner is gone or out of sight, you can quickly make a call to the shelter, your local shelter, or to someone to come pick you up. And you can have your bag and your children, because a lot of times children are involved, and you can leave quickly. So part of that safety planning that we would teach people was just to kind of gather your things slowly over time and do it as discreetly as possible, and contact us, because we had a van to go pick them up. So with that said, Sheray, do you have some information you want to share about the ministry that you mentioned?
Yeah, like so here in Charlotte, I know that, and Leslie, you might know of some others, if any comes to mind, but I know for sure that the Park Church has a ministry. I had picked up this flyer when I had gone to church the other week, and basically they have counselors available, trained professionals to assist you, and you can actually call them directly. So I'll just post the information to this instead of I guess I could read it out here. Tondra McLaurin, you can reach her at 704-369-7729. Minister Raynette Covington, she's at 704-369-7730, or Dr. Major McGuire, 704-369-7705. And like I said, I'll post these. There are also email addresses for them as well, and the website of the church if you need to, have someone to speak to.
If I can add, if you're not in that area and you hear this video or you hear this message, you could also call the hotline. There's a domestic violence hotline, which is 800-799-7233.
Yeah, what's so funny was that back in high school, I had to do like a thesis for college, like a little mini thing. And I actually did a commercial, and I lived in Charleston. So I actually did a commercial for this place called My Sister's House, which is a place for domestic violence survivors. So when I look back, just totally came back to my mind. But there are places out there that, of course, you can reach out to by phone. Of course, they don't give their address out for obvious reasons. But what I did find out over the years is that there are places around Charlotte or around the world that are what they call a safe place, and they actually have them posted. Like the QT gas station is a safe place. So you see a yellow sign that says "safe place out there," which a lot of people don't even know what that means. But once I found out what it was, I was like, wow, that's awesome. So if you go to a QT gas station and just walk in and say, I need a safe place, they'll usher you to the back somewhere.
That's
like a little
good.
private area, and they'll call a police officer, and then they'll figure it out from there. But
I think I've seen those signs. I've even been into public bathrooms and saw signs posted in the public bathrooms, and it just made me feel like That's exactly where they need to be.
Right.
So, Sheray, did you wanted to say something about the Avon Foundation? We're not here just to talk about domestic violence. We're on a mission, right?
Oh, yeah. So let me just pull it up, actually, because I don't have it right in front of me. But yeah, Avon, and I don't know. Can you guys still see me?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay. Avon, in addition to our breast cancer awareness efforts, like I said, we also work with the Speak Out Against Domestic Violence programs. And basically, the Avon Foundation funds these programs to, their mission is to eradicate gender-based violence in 3 core areas. So they talk about, the different programs that we have, going all the way back to, I don't know, I guess they like on our website, we kind of go back to like 2014, our efforts in 2014, in Mexico, in Brazil, in South America, and different things like that. But also around the United States, we work with the National Leadership Institute, as well as give lots of grants. For instance, in 2016, Avon awarded 32 grants totaling $500 million to different, agencies all across the United States. So again, Avon is definitely a part of wanting to eradicate this issue and make people more aware about domestic violence programs.
Do you have a website that you want to share?
Yes, our website, if you want to read more about it, it is under www.avonfoundation.org/programs. And under the programs, you could choose the tab for domestic violence to read more about that. So, and that's our Avon Foundation for Women website.
Okay, that's exciting. So if anyone listening to this is dealing with domestic abuse or knows someone who is, we have given you guys some resources on how you can plan to get out, and who you can contact for help. So thank you again. I was excited to be able to collaborate with you, Sheray.
Thank you for agreeing to do this.
Yeah, but if I could just hug these last couple of minutes we have here to read a little short excerpt, because I've been saying that I was going to share a little bit of the deleted scenes. I'll just read a short paragraph here from the chapter where I talked about my domestic violence experience. Like I said, it's a deleted scene, so this is a chapter that I actually wrote a couple of years ago before I decided to do a complete book, so I had changed it completely. So here I go. Why did I continue to take blows to the fire in my spirit? Those around me could see that my flame was dimming, and they had no trouble letting me know how I changed. Inwardly, I knew that what they said was true, but I continued to cook his meals and wash his clothes and take other things from him. I had to have every phone conversation in secret just so I didn't have to deal with him questioning my every word, assuming that I'm trying to disrespect him. Obviously, this led to the decline of just about every one of my close relationships. He had to know where I was and with whom at all times. No time spent out could be enjoyed because my phone was like a chained shackle, and he was the heavy steel ball keeping me from venturing too far out. So that's all I have, and I hope that you guys were able to gain something. This is a short conversation because this is a free trial on Zoom, so this is going to end very soon, but I'm glad that I was able to talk to you ladies, and it was so nice to meet you, Leslie.
Can I just say one thing real quick? Just let people know, just trust your gut instinct, because the guy that I was with, used to sleep with a gun under his pillow and, show me how to get out of a situation. So he would go on top of me and be like, okay, break loose. So I don't know even to this day why he would do that. But,
Wow.
6 months later, after we broke up, he actually was charged with murder and is spending life in prison. So, you just never know. So I'm very thankful that I got out in time. And like I said, just trust your gut instinct. It'll never lead you wrong. God gave it to you. Yeah.
That's true. Your gut tells you everything. Well, I hope y'all have a good night, and we'll see this up on Facebook very soon.
All right.
And I'll send it to you, Sheray, because I have your email address.
Okay. All right. Will do.
All right.
Thank you, ladies. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.